Toronto Blue Jays got swept by the Texas Rangers, and this one was not much closer than any of the other ones in this series. They got blown out in 3 out of 4 in the 4 game set. And a report came out before the game even started that the Jays would be looking to fire Ross Atkins and a lot of others among the organization if they were to miss the playoffs. They're now 1 game closer to actually missing the playoffs. So we'll break down that report and much more on this episode of Jays Digest. What's up, Jays fans? I'm your host, Peter Vryonis, alongside host Nick Gosse. And before we get into the Blue Jays collapse, the Blue Jays debacle, whatever you want to call it, Nick and I are super excited to continue our partnership with Rentals.ca. And if you didn't know, Rentals.ca is Canada's largest apartment hunting network. And to facilitate your renting needs, whether it be homes, condos, apartments, they're available coast to coast in Toronto, Calgary, Montreal, Vancouver, Ottawa, Winnipeg, and Halifax.
Yeah, and the website is super clean, super easy to use, and has a lot of features. And Peter, my brother has personally used this website, so I can vouch for it. I know you can vouch for it as well. So they've been a big supporter of the channel, and they have a special kind of offer for all you guys out there. So if you want to win some money, you have a chance to win a month of free rent upwards of $2,500. You have to be 18 or older, of course, but Peter, this is a big chance. We hope to see one of you guys out there, one of our fans, one of our supporters win that money. So check out the comment. It's pinned and the link's there, so make sure to check that out. And thank you to Rentals.ca again for supporting us.
I win that? I need that. I need that.
Well, go ahead and
in on that, baby. Let's go.
Go ahead and click the link. And again, thank you to Rentals.ca. And Peter, now that that's out of the way, let's just get into the elephant in the room here. The Jays are bad, and they lost once again. They got swept by the Rangers, and a crazy report dropped just earlier today, and we were going to discuss this, whether they won or lost today. And Peter, let's just get into the Balboa bomb here. And it said, if the Blue Jays fail to reach the playoffs, expect layoffs, including GM Ross Atkins and hitting coach Guillermo Martinez. Ownership is not thrilled with how the season has gone, and they aren't happy with the way Alek Manoah's situation has been handled. Tensions bubbling over in the sixth. Now, if you're unfamiliar with Mike Balboa, he's reported, he has around 1,000 or so Twitter followers. He's broken a few things in the past. He broke the Brad Hand trade, and notably a few other things as well. So he definitely has some sources, and sometimes he's right, sometimes he's wrong. But Peter, regardless of that, this report's kind of crazy. Is it concerning? Is it surprising? Not at all.
Yeah, the only thing that can make me feel better right now is a month free rent, Nick. No, but in all seriousness here, I mean, this is a legitimate reporter. He used to be a Mets reporter, if I'm not mistaken,
Yep.
and he has some sources. He has some inside information that we're not all privy to. But Mike Balboa, he came out with this information here, and I believe it. I mean, how could you stand there if you're the Toronto Blue Jays organization and just run it back with the same exact group of coaches, front office, players? I mean, everyone has been underperforming. John Schneider probably picked his worst time to have his worst managed game of the season today. And there's a tweet that we might show you a little bit later that we will show it to you a little bit later that just demonstrates that this team has been unserious on all fronts, whether it be the players, the front office, and the coaching staff. I mean, they're just not getting it done, plain and simple. And we've been saying this in the past 4 or 5 videos here, Nick. They've had so many opportunities over the course of the season to go ahead and just take the bull by the horns, and they haven't been able to do it. Now, in the biggest series of the year, against a team that wasn't playing good baseball at all. They were playing atrocious baseball. They had a playoff spot ever since April, and then the Blue Jays went and overtook that. The Jays knocked them out of a playoff spot for the first time in 4 or 5 months. And then what do? You go and hand it right back to them because you're just unable of executing pitches. You're unable to have quality at-bats. And the Blue Jays just have been atrocious on all fronts. This has been a disgraceful effort. There's no other way to put it. We expected a lot more out of this team. I mean, some of you maybe didn't. Some of you maybe expected them to come out here and lay an egg like they did, but not to this extent. To be blown out in 3 out of 4 games against a team that has atrocious pitching in the Texas Rangers, it's pathetic. I mean, I don't know what other word to use here, Nick. Pathetic is the one that keeps coming to my mind. It's the one that has described the Jay season for me in a nutshell. And we're recording this the night before that this video comes out. I wouldn't be shocked if I wake up in the morning and there's a fire sale going on and I see 4, 5, 6 names that are out of a job by tomorrow morning.
Yeah, now realistically, will it happen? Who knows? Again, yeah, we're recording this right after the big loss, which will be yesterday as the time you're watching. Peter, I don't know where to really start, and I've kind of been one that, and again, these videos, back-to-back negative videos, there's a time and a place to do it, and now is definitely the time and the place, and I've kind of been supporting the Jays to a degree, and we've been saying positive the whole season. Today was just, I watched the whole game, start to finish, like we have every game of the season.
Final straw.
Yeah, we both kind
Final
of skipped
straw.
the last game, and am I still going to watch every game for the rest of the games? Most likely, yes, but, I mean, this report, it makes sense. He's right, and he does absolutely have sources. And Ross Atkins, again, I don't think he's the biggest issue here. He is definitely to blame. I think John Schneider is also, and again, he's probably not the biggest issue. Do I think John Schneider is gone after this season if they miss the playoffs? I think they do fire him, and he had a disaster class game today, which we'll get into in a second. But this was the tweet from, now, I thought this was fake until I clicked on his profile. This is an MLB beat writer or someone of that nature, and he tweeted mid-game, I think John Schneider is trying to get fired. Now, when you have people tweeting that, all Twitter was going crazy. He just had a really bad game, Peter, and, the Jays ultimately lost. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. can't hit a fastball down the middle. He did hit a two-run home run on a hanging curveball, but I saw a tweet going back to when Vladdy, maybe in his rookie year or whatever it was, against Aroldis Chapman, fighting off 102, 103 miles per hour pitches, and now he can't catch 96 right down the middle as our generational hitter. It has been a disappointing season, a disaster season, and is it over yet? Not quite yet. A lot of people are throwing in the flags. We're kind of doing that to a degree. I think that there's a fundamental flaw with this team's approach, with the way, I don't know about the way they're built. Clearly, the way they're built isn't performing well, but Peter, John Schneider might be the first one to go, if not realistically the first domino that will fall once the season ends. Most likely is probably going to be the hitting coaches, but I don't know if they can keep John Schneider after this season. And has he made some good calls? Has he made some bad calls? Yeah, today was just just weird, his bullpen choices today, but I don't know.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's a whole topic for another day, but I think the Jays just need to clean house. You can't go into next season with the same fundamental pieces in place. And I'm talking about players, I'm talking about coaches, and even the front office. Yeah, Ross Atkins, I think he's done a good job, but at the same time, doesn't admit when he makes mistakes. And sometimes he waits way too long to cut his ties with players. You look at what he did with Mitch White. Why did it take so long to DFA him when you had better options in the minor leagues? Why did you have him on the roster just taking up a spot when he's not valuable, when he's not contributing anything out of the bullpen? You couldn't even put him in a 6-run lead at times if you're the Toronto Blue Jays. So that's one thing. I mean, that's obviously the trade that everyone's going to circle back to and say, oh, that was a disaster. Yeah, that was a disaster. You also have guys that were had OPSs in the 500s a couple of months into the season, and you still kept running them out there. The lack of upgrades that you made, and the Jays were just not aggressive enough. We thought that they made the right moves going into the season. We thought that this year would be different, that guys would hone into their skills and hone into the roles that they need to be in. It just didn't happen. Sometimes it just doesn't work out. I think their approach wasn't where it needed to be. They had uncompetitive at bats from game 1 to game 145, wherever we are right now, and stuff needs to change. Just can't go into next season with the same core. And if you got to trade one of your star players, then go ahead and do it, because they've had every chance to go ahead and become the leaders of this team. They've had the chances to grow exponentially as players, and they haven't done that. I would keep Bo Bichette. I think he's a pillar of this organization. I love the way he plays. Obviously, he's had a couple of rough games, so it might skew some people's opinions of him. But he is a guy that loves to win, and he is a guy that takes his craft very seriously. He works harder than anyone on the team and maybe anyone in the league. So that's a guy that you want to hold on to if you're the Blue Jays front office. But when it comes to Vladdy, he's shown regression in back-to-back years, and that's just not something that you want to see out of a 24-year-old that was expected to be the next Miguel Cabrera. And I just don't think he's on that kind of trajectory anymore. I think he can bounce back. I think he could still be an elite hitter, but is he going to be a generational hitter like we all thought? Maybe not. Maybe this is who he is. So you look at that, you got to look yourselves in the mirror if you're the Toronto Blue Jays, and you got to make some rough choices. If you got to get rid of George Springer, go ahead and do it. If you got to go get rid of Vladdy, go ahead and do it. Now, I can't believe I'm saying that. I know you don't want to do that after a down season, Nick, but you got to shake things up and you got to change things up, and you got to give some guys that are more worthy of opportunities those chances to go ahead and make the big league team.
Yeah, and I think a shakeup is definitely needed. I don't think there's any way they trade Vladdy just because of what you said, the down year. I think there's a higher chance that they somehow option him back to AAA at some point just to get him reps, and there is just to
And
trade
that's
him.
not happening.
And that's not going to happen either. I think ultimately there's no way they trade him, though I completely agree that something needs to change. Trade everyone besides Vladdy and Bo, and I wouldn't really be upset at this point just because of how we've had so many years of this now, 3 or 4 years, especially, 2021 was obviously the peak year we all talk about. Last year was a major disappointment. This year is an even bigger disappointment. Cannot believe I'm saying that coming. We were AL East, borderline favorites this year, and now the Orioles have overtaken us. So play the young guys, just like the Orioles did last year into this year, and just see where they take you going, forward. Maybe even do that with a week or two left in this season, depending where we are. But overall, a bit of a rant here out of us, and
Yeah.
it was well needed. I know a lot of you Jays fans are upset as well. Keep supporting the Jays for the rest of the regular season, but when it comes to, again, let's also make sure before I'll give it to you here before we wrap up. It's on the players as well. It's really on the players to perform better. They were ultimately, fundamentally, are the ones who have disappointed us year after year. The coaching as well, and overall, it's on the players first and foremost. But I think the coaches need to change. I think the players need to change. And pitching was phenomenal. Keep that intact, and then from there, any players you got left, keep Varsho, Bo, and Vladdy, and everyone else is for sale here at this point.
Yeah, I just think you look at the 2015, 2016 rosters. Obviously, they had an older core of players, but they had those pillars in place and they knew what they needed around those teams, around those players to go ahead and be successful. Now, I think you have your core pieces here in Vladdy and Bo, but can they be your core guys? Can they be those leaders that Jose Bautista, Josh Donaldson, Troy Tulowitzki were to that 2015, 2016 teams? I don't know. They haven't shown it. They're still a lot younger than those guys were when the Jays made those runs 7 years ago. But I just don't see that progression. I mean, Jose Bautista, Josh Donaldson, Troy Tulowitzki, Russell Martin, they all had that dog in them, and they all had that will to win that was greater than the other teams. That's what separated them. Vladdy and Bo, I don't see it. Bo, to a certain extent, I do see it, but Vladdy, I just haven't been impressed with him this season. And I just don't know if he's a guy that you want to build your team around. I can't believe I'm saying it. I cannot believe I'm saying it because I was really expecting him to have an MVP caliber season this year. But it's been a no show. It's been a no show from him and a ton of other guys that needed to be a lot better this season. And it's going to cost the Blue Jays. It's going to bite them in the butt. And I wouldn't be shocked if we're here in 3 weeks talking about a missed postseason appearance and about a bunch of firings and about a bunch of roster turnover because it's well needed with this group.
Yeah, and baseball's weird. Who knows? Maybe we could be 2 or 3 weeks from now and the Jays are back in a playoff spot. But at the end of the day, it's going to be a wild offseason regardless because they're going to make tons of changes. They're going to fire people 100%. They're going to trade people 100%. And they're going to sign people. That might be their only hope right now is they get a huge blockbuster signing, which I can guarantee you we'll have tons of videos covering who the best targets are and who
Not
they're
out
linked
there
in.
though. It's not even out there unless they get Otani. It's not out there. So I'm
Otani to
sorry to
Toronto
burst the bubble, Nick.
2024. Otani to Toronto 20.
Otani to the Jays. That's what we need, baby. That'll bring us over the top.
All right, and thank you guys for watching again. Thanks you to Rentals.ca for all that, and make sure to check out the description in the comment there. But let us know what your thoughts are in the comments. You guys have been great with that, and we read every single one, so we appreciate your support. And hopefully the Jays can win tomorrow against the Red Sox. We'll see you in tomorrow's video. Tonight against the Red Sox. I misspoke. Peace.